All right. Hello, everyone. Let me make sure I can see myself on YouTube. This has not been a good technology day. Okay, let me make sure I can see myself on YouTube here. This computer, while I'm thankful for it, it picks the most inopportune times to want to update. And I am not at home right now, so I don't have my nice hard signal. My nice hard connection. So I guess it just took a while for the updates to come down and for the computer to do its own thing. And I had meant to go a couple hours earlier, but here we are. Let's see who we have here. Got the big bad wolf there in the chat. Hopefully he'll come along. 2 weeks ago when I was in Indy, Buckeye Alex, well, he was off doing what Buckeye Alex does. I'm gonna get us started with Let's Go Blue. And then I have two predictions here for the playoff in terms of the predicted scores for the opening round games. And then hopefully Alex will come and he'll let us know what he thinks about this whole thing. So give me a second here. Game day faves. Uh, please shout yourselves out in the chat. Please hit that like button. The likes are free. The super chat is live if you want to super chat something, or if you want to make a super sticker, quote unquote. All that's there. And if you want to, oh, there he is. There he is. Let me just do this one other thing, and then I'm gonna let Alex drive tonight. We were gonna tack this on to the end of the Big Ten championship game reaction video, but we got our wires crossed. So fortunately, Alex was gracious enough to come back and give us his 2 cents on the playoff picture. Um, so that's what we're gonna do today. I'm gonna get us started with Let's Go Blue, and then we will jump in. All right. Okay, I am looking at myself there on YouTube, and I look frozen. Oh, why is that? Okay, for some reason, you not having a good technical day today. All right, we're okay. So, Alex, were you guys able to hear the music? Yeah, for some reason on the YouTube side, I frozen. I hit the pause button. Anyway, anyway, okay, everyone, welcome back to Big Discussions 76 Sports. My name is Dr. Anwar Youssef Dunbar. Yep, that's me. That's my logo. That's my current logo. Um, Shout out to Bo Lytle. If you see fit, please like, share, and subscribe. If you want to drop something in the collection plate for the channel, again, the super chat is live. The super chat is live, and you can also donate something here if you see fit. Shout out to Bo Lytle. Respect is earned. And so I'll just jump right in. So, hey guys, we know that the college football playoff picture has been set. The first, Georgia, once again, is the top seeded team, so they're number one. Our Michigan Wolverines are the number two team. The playoff committee, amidst a bunch of turmoil, TCU lost its game. USC refused to step up and win its game. Um, and of course, you know what happened in the Big Ten East finale. We defeated Ohio State, but the playoff committee rewarded TCU and they rewarded Ohio State. So Ohio State is in the dance. And as I'll describe, they have been assigned Georgia in the opening round, and we have been assigned or we have been paired up with the Texas Christian Horned Frogs. I'm just going to show the predicted win margins, and then I'll drop the link so Alex can come up and tell us what he thinks about his Buckeyes being in the playoff, and then matching up with Georgia, and then who he thinks is going to win the whole thing. Interestingly, Paul Feinbaum, of all people, who is one of the harshest Jim Harbaugh critics out there, has stated that he thinks the Wolverines have a good chance of beating Georgia. So let's see. Let's see. Let me pull this up. I'm gonna be really quick. I told Alex he could drive today. Let's see. So let's go in order of the games because the Michigan TCU game, that one's going to come on early on New Year's Eve, and then the Georgia Ohio State game, that's going to come on um, later. So I'm not going to read this. I just pulled this today. I'm going to skip through all this. Let me get rid of that. Just bear with me. So Michigan is picked to win this game. And Michigan is picked to win by 9 points over TCU. Okay, so we're picked to win by a touchdown and 2 points over the Horned Frogs. Okay, so I'm going to drop this down. Please hit that like button if you haven't. And now let's bring up the Georgia Ohio State prediction. And whoever is making these picks, I don't know if it's Vegas or someone else, they're giving Ohio State a pretty good chance of winning this game. Let's take a look at the prediction here. Okay, get rid of that. Let's see. That's the money line. Where is Georgia's Georgia is only picked to win this game by a touchdown. So I don't know if it's the matchup. I don't know if Ohio State is tailor made for Georgia. It could be they're predicting that Ohio State is going to have a bit of a chip on its shoulder, but Georgia is only picked to win by one touchdown. So Alex, I'm going to drop the link, and you can come up and tell us what you think about all this. There's the link. It's amazing that Ohio State kind of backed its way in, but it's also fascinating that whoever made these predictions, um, they're not predicting that Ohio State's going to get blown out by Georgia. They're predicting a close game. Maybe, yeah, maybe with the month off and in injuries and being able to rest their injuries, and maybe being able to think about what they did wrong against us. Maybe they're predicting Ohio State will have a bit of a rebirth. And our resident super fan is here. Hey, by the way, the Buffalo Bills had a good win last night, didn't they? Abdul Gaines says Ryan Day better show and prove during the CFP. He's got a chance at atonement. While we wait for Alex, well, there's Alex. We'll get started with a Ryan Day quote, since Abdul Gaines just said that.
Well, every year we have the same expectation, and the first goal is to beat the team up north and win the rivalry game, and that didn't happen. And so we had to sit on that for a calendar year, and that's not good. We don't want to have to go through that again.
Alexander, welcome, and thank you for your patience. This tech stuff, when it works really well, it works really well. When it's going through its updates and everything.
Yeah, I completely understand. I work in a tech space, so I get that.
All right. So, what say you about this? You guys are still alive. You guys can still hoist the trophy.
Well, I mean, if you look at it as like a dead horse that's been hit by a semi truck and its leg is still kicking, yes, technically it's still alive. But I think I think I kind of maybe foresaw that this was going to happen. um, I think the last time we spoke, I thought, I think I pretty much was thinking Michigan was gonna win that game. And uh, I think in that game we made probably five mistakes that cost us the game. So you live and you learn.
So,
I
Alex,
think I
before
think
we move on, what gave you pause leading up to that game? What made you think that might happen?
if you remember, I said Michigan's identity. They know what they are. Um, and I feel like Ohio State, me personally, watching both teams very closely this year. Uh, Michigan is very similarly built to Iowa. The only difference is that they're Iowa playmakers. So um, I appreciate. I think it's interesting. Kind of, I was thinking about this probably about 2 weeks ago. We had a conversation probably, I don't know, maybe 2 years ago about about bringing Jim Harbaugh back on a reduced salary because he couldn't find an NFL job because no NFL teams wanted him. And I think that and also Abdul switching sides um, probably helped Michigan a lot. Um, when it comes to college football, whatever whoever he's rooting for ends up losing. So thank you so much, Gaines Associates, for that. uh, no, but seriously, I think that um, there's nothing wrong. There's nothing like being humbled and kind of getting back to uh, doing what you do best and a renewed fire. Um, I think everybody, especially coaches, and I'm a coach myself, we're very, very competitive. Um, so, when you have a season or have had seasons, the kind of the way that uh, Jim Harbaugh has had, the past first 7 seasons of his tenure, I definitely think that that situation with the contract, not being able to go to the NFL and really taking a hard look at himself and really kind of backed him into a wall, and he came out swinging like crazy. So, um, kudos to him, kudos to the program, kudos to the coaching staff. Not to mention kudos to the Baltimore Ravens, who have just handed him defensive coordinator after defensive coordinator. So, um, he used his resources. And when you're kind of backed in a corner, that's what you should do. You should use all your resources to be competitive in the market that you're working in. So, um, that being said, I kind of foresaw that coming. Um, I think the last time we spoke, I was, pretty much going to pick Michigan to win because I didn't necessarily believe that Ohio State had played solid football down the stretch. The first 6 weeks, they were lights out. Um, and that could have been a little bit to the schedule. But I also believe that they were never pretty much the same after Travion Henderson and then Jackson Smith and Jigba got hurt in the first game. I never felt like the team was the same after that. So, um, but listen, it's an injury. You kind of have to pick up. You have to pick yourself up and move forward. And I really feel like sometimes when I watch them play, they're still stuck in that game in September. Like they're still like shell shocked, assuming that he was going to come back. And I think one of the worst things to happen is for him to try to come back, like 3 separate times and not be able to play. So, and there's been a ton of injuries, this year on both sides due to some of the new turf that Ohio State's put in. So, but you know, uh, nonetheless, they made mistakes on defense, and Michigan made it pay for it. So, uh, I think um, kind of his first time in in the game, uh, Jim Knowles. I think his aggressiveness. He's an aggressive play caller. Uh, I think the plays were correct. I also think that the players didn't make the correct plays on the field. So, um, the first touchdown was a missed tackle. And pretty much everything were just missed gap assignments, right? And a lot of that is due to I don't know what the award is for the best center offensive lineman that Michigan got. The guy from Virginia, he's amazing. He's incredible.
Olu.
Yeah, he's really, really good. So hats off. I mean, he played his behind off in that game. So that was a big part of it. But when you miss gap assignments and things like that, that's kind of what you should expect. So hats off to them. And regarding Ohio State, I kind of assumed that they were going to get in just because of the resume. Um, they were basically number two the whole season. It's very hard to drop from number two out of the playoff when you have one loss against the third ranked team, although it be at your place. I think when you kind of go back and look at that game, uh, Ohio State had every opportunity to be up probably 2 to 3 scores. Didn't take advantage of it. Came out in the second half. Um, Missed some crucial gap assignments, and that was the game pretty much. So, uh, and the game, flipped. It was in Ohio State's. It was basically playing on Ohio State's terms in the first half. Second half was played on Michigan's terms. So, um, all that being said, it's a good win for the team up north. Um, Good win for the program. The rivalry's back, which is from the first time me and you ever spoke is all I ever wanted. Um, to have that feeling where like we got to beat them to win a national championship. So um, it's it's a very unpleasant feeling, but it is what I wanted. And rivalries are no fun. And I've said this a million times. Rivalries are no fun when you beat your opponent by 30, 40 points. You know, 17 out of 20 times. That's not fun. Um, especially with the relationship that Ohio State and Michigan have, although sometimes very heated, it is very respectable. So, um, but nonetheless, uh, you know, I think with our resume, we had the best win out of the top six, top seven teams, which is against Penn State. So both teams did, and I think that's the reason why they got in because they just had the best win on the resume. Like resume wise, they just had the best win at Penn State, nonetheless.
Okay. Let me ask you before we move on, going back to Jim Knowles, were you a fan of all the zero coverage he was playing?
Yes, but
Oh,
yes. So uh, you, so I said this last time we talked. JJ McCarthy has never won a game with his arm, right? So like you don't know up until that moment in time he hadn't done it. So you're banking on what he's done all season, right? Which is pretty much dink and dunk. And honestly, he pretty much did that. He had the throw to the outside, it was an on time throw, but there should have been a tackle. There's a missed tackle, and the guy takes off 70 yards. Um, and then he had to throw to the tight end. Which was a great throw. But outside of that, he pretty much didn't do very much. He did a lot with his legs. But I think JJ was what I thought he was, which
okay.
is a very solid quarterback, very athletic, um, can make plays with his legs. Not necessarily he can make a couple throws here and there, but um, I don't necessarily believe that Michigan won that game. They were definitely in position to win that game. They put themselves into position to win that game. But I do think the defensive calls were correct, but the players just didn't necessarily execute. And that's I probably say as a coach, um, when your players don't do what you practice on the floor or on the field, you take responsibility for that. So, you're supposed to put them in position to be successful on the field, and when they don't do that, you take on that responsibility. So, on one hand, I would say yes, but I do think the calls were correct. Um, but when you're not gap sound, those things happen. So it happens every week, every football game across the country from Pee Wee to NFL. If you're not gap sound, you get somebody on the edge, and he'll take it 50, 60 yards every single time.
Okay. Now, JJ, like over the course of the year, there were those deep shots that were taken downfield. He just didn't connect on them.
Mhm.
Um, that day he connected on one,
Just one,
uh, just one,
just one.
but it came at the right time.
Absolutely.
Um, so they hadn't connected on any of those throughout the year.
Mhm.
What do you think about now for you guys on offense? Was that just Travion being hurt? Because you guys seemed very pass heavy.
It was Travion and Maya Williams being hurt. Our top two running backs were hurt. We had a transfer, Chip Trainum from my hometown of Akron, Ohio, who transferred from Arizona State. Um, he had, I think, 700 yards rushing last year, but transferred to Ohio State to be a linebacker. So, he was practicing with the linebackers all year up until the last 2 weeks of the season with the injury. So, Travion is out for the year. He's having surgery. Mayan has a severe high ankle sprain. He couldn't play. So, and then you have a freshman, Dallin Hayden from Memphis, and him. So, uh, the first time that he carried the ball this season, or maybe the second time he carried the ball this season, was in that game. So he was practicing with the defense the whole year. So um, still, no excuses. That's just like the situation, what's going on in the running back room situation wise. But nonetheless, still no excuses. So um, I think Travion playing probably could have helped. I also think, Mayan Williams playing could have helped because I think Mayan Williams is the better running back for Ohio State. I think it's the best running back in that room. And I think, missing the best wide receiver in football or the second best wide receiver in football, either one, they both play for Ohio State. Um, so missing, top receiver in college football, like, those things, it hurts. So, but you still got to go out and play the game. And Ohio State definitely put themselves in a position to win. Um, but there are definitely a lot of missed opportunities on both sides of the ball in the first half and in the second half. So, got to go back to the drawing board. Um, and the pressure's on. So, uh, it's an interesting conversation where, uh, yeah, you might lose to the Michigan, but you're in the college football playoff 3 times, right? You played for national championship 2 years ago, and I fully believe, and not just because I'm a Buckeye, but I believe that if our whole defensive line doesn't get COVID and half our defense doesn't get COVID, we probably win that game against Alabama. I fully believe that. So um, I feel like we could have pulled that one out, especially with Justin Fields. So you kind of look at it 2 years removed. The world's a different place 30 seconds ago than it was, right now. So um, I think it's interesting. I think people calling for his head is a little bit over the top when he just played for a national championship. I mean, his track record speaks for itself. So
So we're talking about Ryan Day now.
Ryan Day, yeah, he's a great coach, uh, and I just think I think in a perfect scenario, if everybody's healthy, then
Hmm.
you know then I think it's a different result. But that's not the way the game is played. So um, I think people forget those things. It's not, you know there's definitely a drop off in talent from a 5-star to a 3-star, or like different players on the roster. Same thing with Michigan. Same thing with every other team, right? So uh, I just think that is what it is, and I think we'll be fine. I think especially going up against Georgia, Travion's going to be out, but I think we'll be fine, and we'll see. I mean, we just have an opportunity to play. So, and that's due to, unfortunately we had the loss, but due to the season, we still have an opportunity to play for, or they have an opportunity to play for the national championship.
Okay. Before we move on to the playoff brackets, did you just mentioned Ryan Day being a great coach? Did the coaching staff, did they get a little in the second half of that game against us? Did they get a little bit gun shy or something like that? Because I was expecting on that one, I was expecting Ohio State to go for that 1/4 down. CJ
Yeah,
Stroud was like, no, 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 let's go for it. Let's go for it.
yeah, I think so. This is interesting. So there's a lot of talking points where like CJ doesn't have that dog in him.
Hmm.
So it was right there on the field. He's like, no, like it's Michigan, it's Ohio State, it's fourth down, let's go for it. And I believe two things. I believe that at the time, knowing the way the defense hasn't won Ohio State a game or games in a very long time.
Hmm.
But this season, that defense has won Ohio State at least 2 games. Okay. So you bring this guy in, he turns your defense around. You're a top 10, you go from a top 60 defense to a top 10 defense in 1 year. Your defense has won you 2 games. Why not trust that? Right. I mean, hindsight is always 2020, 50-50 if you're Cam Newton, but for everybody else, it's 2020. Um, I think at the time you could say, given the information, it's the right call. Like, um, your defense has given up outside of the explosive plays that were their mistakes, right? So it wasn't like something that Michigan did that was just so overwhelming. Their explosive plays came due to the fact that they weren't gap sound and they missed tackles. So um, if you just do your job, then it should be fine. And you know, for the most part, they've done their job for the year. I mean, they've won. The defense has won them at least two to three games, I think, this year. So I believe it's the right call. I understand, but I believe it was the right call. Now, granted, that call blew up in their face, but I think, like I said, hindsight's always 2020. And trust me, as a coach, like I had a game the other week where, uh, I had a player that had four fouls. It was a close game, and I took him out. We ended up losing. I probably could have left him in, and we kind of went on a tear, and we ended up losing that game from me taking him out. So I mean, as a coach, you just go with your gut, and of course, if it goes the opposite way, they're just going to come for you, especially if you lose. So
Yeah. So, no. Okay, here we go. Here he is. We're like, it's like we have we're reading each other's minds these days. Me and Abdul. Is it? Does he need to get his players in there, or is it? Because he came
so
under a lot of criticism after that game.
yes, so the majority of the rushing yards came in the second half. I mean, we can go back and look, but Michigan, I think, had 20 yards rushing in the first half.
Yep.
So the defense works, right? It works. But when you're not gap sound, those things just happen. That's just, I mean, football coaches understand exactly what I'm saying. Fans might not necessarily understand. But when you are not gap sound, those 70-yard runs, 60, 70-yard runs happen at a very high clip. So I think two things can be true. I think that, no, you just need to go back to Michigan. Just go back to Michigan.
He can't come back. He can't come home.
Yes, he can.
The door
Yes,
is
he can.
locked.
No,
He's gonna be on the porch.
No. Listen. You put
The
him on
dogs
the
are
porch.
outside. The dogs are gonna get him.
You put him outside like Dino. Dino still ends up in the house, right? So, I think, like I said, I think if the team is just gap sound like they were in the first half, I definitely think they played very tight though. They played very, very tight in the second half, and I think that showed on the field. So you just got, I tell my kids all the time, regardless of who scores, who doesn't score, you just got to keep playing. You got to keep playing, know your assignments, and when the clock's over, then we look up and we see what we got to do. We see if it's a winner, if it's a loss, and either one you can win, you can learn from. So, but at the end of the day, you just got to keep playing. And I kind of felt like, especially on the Ohio State side, they played very tight. They watched the ball way too much. You had a corner got beat by a double move because he's watching the quarterback who hasn't completed a deep ball all season. So, I mean, I mean, they put themselves in position to make those plays, but there were a lot of mistakes on the Ohio State side that they made that they really haven't made all year. So, uncharacteristic mistakes, but that's just the game, right? So, you got to learn from it, come back, and be better, the next game. So, I always tell my team, before we take the floor, trust your teammates, trust your eyes, trust your instincts. So, if you don't do those things, you don't necessarily give yourself a chance to win.
Okay, Abdul says, I have to admit, the closer we get to the Georgia game, the more nervous I am getting. So let's talk about the matchups. But before we do, Abdul, I have not welcomed you in the proper way. And maybe if you leave Ohio State, maybe you should go root for this guy.
Yeah. All right, and I'm going to continue to live that way and try to do what's right. And, that's who Nick Saban is. All right, so regardless of what anybody says, that's who Nick Saban is.
Abdul, we're sure they'll welcome you down there in Tuscaloosa.
Listen, they got
Oh.
this place. They got this place down there. It's called Catfish Heaven. It's the best
Oh yeah.
catfish you ever had. Oh yeah, yeah. My brother went to Stillman, which is like 5 seconds from there, in Tuscaloosa. So yeah,
Okay.
I'm very familiar with
So
that area.
so you guys have the number one team in the nation. Are you surprised um, that they're only picked to win by a touchdown? What does that say? Does that say that
I
um,
think
they're not as great as they were last year, or maybe you guys, the Michigan game wasn't a true perception of how good Ohio State really is. Is that what
I
that was?
believe I believe two things. I believe the first thing is people understand that Ohio State hasn't played its best football yet, right? I believe we haven't seen the best version of Ohio State. And I also believe I don't know if I necessarily believe that's going to happen this season. So I'm very, I'm very weary of that. I think we've seen at spurts how explosive offensively and defensively they can be, but they haven't put it together for a whole game. And until I see that, um, I don't believe that it's possible. So very similar to my take on JJ McCarthy. Um, he made a couple throws, but the throws he made were wide open throws, right? He still hasn't made any tight NFL window throws. So I believe that if you cover those receivers and make him have to make those throws, we haven't seen that he can do that yet. So um, when it comes to Georgia, uh, Georgia's just a whole nother animal. I think people don't know what to think. I think that a lot of this is about trying to keep it interesting betting wise. So, if you come in at 6.5, it ends up being 10, right? But then the game is actually, I don't know, closer than that. Then, Vegas makes a lot of money. So, um, I think I think people understand how explosive Ohio State can be. But I also think that line was based upon whether or not Jackson Smith and Jigma was going to play, which we know he's not.
Hmm.
So I think the closer we get to that game, I think that line is definitely going to move in the opposite direction.
Okay. Okay. Well, we know that Georgia they graduated a bunch of those defensive players from last year's team. I think the big advantage they have over everybody are those two tight ends. Those-
I think it's their offensive guard. I think it's a guard or a tackle. I think it's a guard or a
Really?
tackle.
Why do you think that?
Because he's probably the best. He's probably the best offensive lineman in football. I can't remember the guy's name, but he is. I think that, and I think his name is Jalen, their defensive tackle. He's he's uh he's different. He's like Aaron Donald, but like a 6'7" version of Aaron Donald. Um, so I mean, they're very very good at the point of attack on the offensive defensive line. They're exceptional. So I mean, I think the Jim Knowles' defense is very versatile, especially
Hmm.
when it comes to those tight ends, because we have players that can guard those guys. But I really feel like um, the Georgia's secret sauce is the line of scrimmage. No matter who they play, every game it's unquestioned they control the line of scrimmage. So as long as you do that, you'll win every game, no matter who you're playing. It doesn't matter if it's Tennessee, Michigan, Ohio State, USC, Alabama. It doesn't matter. If you're winning the line of scrimmage, you're going to win the game.
Hmm. What do you think about their quarterback, Stetson Bennett? He's not a big guy, but he can run around and he can zip it.
Yeah, I think we went to high school together.
Really?
No, but I feel like we did because he's been in college almost as long as I've been out. So he's been in college for a while. I think he's okay. I think that he makes plays. You know, he's a he's a grinder, right? He's your typical prototypical college quarterback who, you know, is going to stand in there. He's going to battle for his team no matter what, and he's gonna make the necessary throws. He's gonna stand in there, take the hits, and battle with his guys. I mean, he's a football player through and through. So he's not. I don't look at him necessarily as a quarterback. I look at him just as a football player. Like he can just play the game of football. He just understands it at a very high level, which allows him to excel at the position that he plays. So I think he's very 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 good. I don't think he should have been a Heisman finalist, but I do think he's very good.
Hmm. Okay. All right. Let's see. Let me go back. And so Michigan is picked to win by 10. I've spent so much time with my limited time looking at the Big Ten. Are you familiar with TCU?
I am.
All right. Do you want to tell us a little bit about what to expect from TCU? And I'll probably look up the statistics before the game, everyone, and do a stream on what to expect from the game. But
Yeah.
what do you know about TCU?
TCU is like USC, but more disciplined.
Okay.
They're very explosive. Max Dugan he's a baller. He's just a baller. That's all I can say. The kid can just play. So, um, they have solid weapons. They're very athletic. Um, they're very physical. For a Big 12 team, they're very physical. So Uh, I think they actually match up very well versus Michigan. I think everybody thinks Michigan's just going to rout them, and I don't necessarily believe that. I think it's going to be a game. I think Michigan, eventually wins, but uh, I think this is one of those games where TCU doesn't make a lot of mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
They're very sound defensively. Um, I really really like they have a wide receiver. I really like. They have a tight end that's pretty good. And Max Dugan is just gonna do what he does. Get his chunk plays. He's not necessarily the best thrower of the football, but he's just a baller when it comes. He's just a football player. So um, I think it's going to be interesting. I think Michigan can probably pull it out like a 35-27 game. Um, but I think TCU is definitely going to make it a game. I think people are really sleeping on how good TCU is.
Okay. Because they just barely lost their championship game. I think that they lost by 1 point.
Yeah. And this is so styles like boxing make fights, styles
Mm-hmm.
make football games.
Mm-hmm.
This state's just a bad matchup for TCU. Uh, just very similar to Utah. Like Utah is just a bad matchup for USC. Um, Utah is like we're just gonna beat you up and beat you up and down the field, and you know, like Utah can take a punch, you know, and I don't think USC can, and that's why they won that game. I mean, I saw it clear as day. Like they're just going to beat you up and down the field. So Utah is they are through and through a Big Ten style type of team. I really wish we could have them in the Big Ten. So
Okay.
I love Utah's brand of football. So they're good in other sports. They're very very solid in basketball. So I like what they're doing over there. So and not to mention, listen, the Pac-12 by far had the best year conference wise out of every Power Five conference in the country. The Pac-12 had the best year. So hats off to them. Hats off to Utah. Um, kind of looking at it now, it's interesting that USC and UCLA are going to move because that kind of seems like a bad move after the year that they've had. But
Mm-hmm.
um, we'll see. But yeah, I think it's gonna. I think the game against TCU is going to be interesting. Um, I think people are really doubting them. And defensively, they're going to look at what Michigan does. They're going to be ready to play. I really believe Ohio State gave. I think last year Georgia and this year, or like Ohio State in the first half, gave you a blueprint on how to beat Michigan. Um, so we'll see. We'll see if they can follow that and maybe throw in some wrinkles of their own and maybe give themselves a shot. But I don't believe that they'll win that game.
Okay. Well, I, I'm just thinking back to how much reaction my post Michigan Georgia video got. Bulldog fan kept watching that video into July and August. That game, we were just overmatched. I mean,
Hmm.
we were, and that looked like, as a Michigan fan, it looked like a varsity team playing against a JV team.
I know what that looks like.
And I have a video coming up after this about Cade transferring to Iowa, but I don't think Cade had what it took to challenge Georgia, which is why so many people were bullish on JJ, because JJ can beat you with his legs, and he's shown that he can create something out of nothing. But Cade couldn't do that.
So this is my argument to that.
Okay.
Okay. This is my argument when it comes to both of these players. To say that one player like Cade cannot do some of the things that JJ can do athletically, all that says to me is that you're not addressing your offensive line deficiencies. That's what that says to me. And there's nothing wrong with that. Like that's okay. Um, but to sit here and say that JJ is just a better quarterback, I don't believe that. He might be a better, um, let me use the correct term. He might be a better playmaker, but that doesn't make him a better quarterback.
Okay.
And they're two different things. Um, I think, but I understand the point. But when you're playing against a team like Georgia, Stetson Bennett is not a playmaker, right? I mean, he could run a little bit, but he's not. He just runs the offense
Okay.
and makes the correct throws. So
Well, he has some mobility, and he has some
yeah,
elusiveness.
he has a little bit, but it's not as he doesn't necessarily have to use those things to win, because they're going to win the line of scrimmage every game. So there might be a play here or there where he needs to kind of turn that on, but I don't necessarily believe. I personally feel like like people use it as a talking point to move off of Kate McNamara. When to me, if you win the Big Ten championship, you take your team to the college football playoff, and it was the first time they had an opportunity to play for a national championship in probably 30 years, to lose your
Hmm.
starting job, I think it's just ridiculous. But that's everybody's entitled to their own opinion. I just feel like he didn't do anything to lose his job.
Well, going back to the Georgia game, and it could be that defense was that good. I mean,
They
to
were.
talk about that defense last year, it was that good.
Yeah,
Maybe,
they were exceptional.
yeah,
They were like the O2 Ravens. Like they were good. They were very good.
yeah. I mean, and they just made our offensive line look average. But
Hmm.
but but you were just waiting during that game. You're waiting for a big throw. You're waiting for Cade to create something. Um,
But again, I feel like that speaks to the deficiencies that either one, Josh Gaddis, that's a whole nother story, right? But then I think, sometimes when your offensive line is just overmatched, they're just overmatched. And I mean, yes, like you need to go somewhere maybe to get a spark, but it doesn't necessarily mean that like a playmaker is better than a quarterback. So I think it depends on I think ideally it depends on what type of offense and what you would like to be. Um, because with all that ability, he dink and dunked the entire season, right? So he didn't do anything that Cade could not have done. I believe that Cade probably could have done when he did better, um, by managing. And I find it so interesting to saying that Cade doesn't have we talked about like this deep accuracy that JJ McCarthy has, and I never saw it. On the double move against the Ohio State game, he underthrew the ball by like 7 yards. Like the receiver had to literally
Slow down.
slow down, turn around and catch it, and then run in the end zone. So um, I don't really see the differences between the two. Uh, Not to mention, you just lit a fire under somebody's behind with him going to Iowa and taking Eric All with him. So kudos to him. Listen, Iowa, Iowa is a quarterback, a receiver, and a running back away from wrecking the Big Ten.
Okay, so we'll end on that. So everyone, I'm going to do another. I'm going to take a harder look at TCU's statistics and see if I can break down their team a little bit more before the semifinal game. But yeah, let's end on that. Do you think Cade and Eric All turn Iowa into the favorite to win the Big Ten West and maybe even the Big Ten overall?
I definitely think they're the favorite to win the Big Ten West next year, no question.
Mm-hmm.
That's a huge get. Those are two huge gets. And Iowa actually has a freshman running back that was very, very good this year. And listen, Iowa, who plays a 4-2-5, and I'll say it again, they play the same defense that Jim Knowles runs at Ohio State. And until they played Ohio State, I think they're the number 2 ranked defense in the country. They are always a top 10 defense. They just cannot play offense. If they get those pieces figured out, like they need, and their offensive line's not very good, so they're going to have to address those needs in the offseason. Or I guess now because the transfer portal's open. But if they address some of those things, they're a lot to win the Big Ten West. I don't think it'll be close. I think they're a 10 win season next year, 10 or 11 games. Just by getting those two guys with what they have.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. Well, Alex, do you have anything else right now?
Yes. Please. I'm gonna send you a return to sender for Gains and Gains Associates back to Ann Arbor. So since they have decided to deport down south, like it's been
Well, hold
trouble.
on.
So I'm sending them back. I'm sending them back. Listen, with a couple, I'll send them back with some Swensons, which is you can get in Columbus, and I'll send them back with some Raising Canes for you guys. But they got to go back. They got to go.
Well, hold on. In all truthfulness, Raheem Gaines has been an Ohio State fan all along. It's Abdul's the carpetbagger. All
Oh
right.
yeah. Okay, so Abdul he can go back. He can go back. He can definitely go back.
Yeah.
He can go back.
Now that's in
Raheem
college. That's
Raheem
in
can
college.
stay, but
Yeah.
Abdul's got to go. He's got to go.
Now I was going to say that's in college. On the pro level, they've hopped from the Patriots to the Buccaneers to back to the Buffalo Bills. So, but in college, Raheem has been loyal.
Okay, yeah, he can stay, but Abdul's got to go. Listen, the moment he turned, we turned, and we got to turn it back. The moment he turned, we turned. So
Yeah.
we're upside down right now. Even though even though we're playing for, we have opportunity to play for a national championship, which is something else I want to address really quick before we hop off. What is your take on the game now with the expanded college playoff coming? Because
You mean is
I almost feel like it lessens to a point the rivalry, because for so long, and with Big Ten expansion, you have to beat the team up north to play for a national championship. Now you don't. And in the coming years, you really won't have to, right? So I'm curious what your take on that is, because I almost feel like this is like this year and probably next year is like really like the last year we're gonna get like an intense rivalry between Ohio State and Michigan. And I might be wrong. I hope I'm not, but I definitely think with the change of the college landscape, especially with the NIL players moving all around, the transfer portal, and then expansion of the Big Ten, expansion of the college football playoff. I feel like we're like kind of like looking at the last years of like a serious heated rivalry between two teams.
where the game matters. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
things. It's part of life, man. Things change, things evolve, and there are trade offs. So to accommodate 12 teams, you're lessening the importance of some of the rivalries.
yes,
So under this scenario, you could lose the game, but you could still be in the hunt for the title if both teams are elite. Yeah. So I that then pretty much all that will be left is the heritage, because the urgency, if you know you can still get in the playoff, then some of the urgency might go away.
hmm
Yeah, I agree.
yeah. I think I almost feel like this particular move, and people are not going to like this, gets us closer to an SEC style conference than the tradition, the heritage that the Big Ten prides itself on.
Now, when you say an SEC style conference, what do you mean?
Um, so I live about 30 minutes from Gainesville,
Hmm.
and in Jacksonville they play the Florida Georgia game every year, right? Because it's basically like it's kind of like the halfway point, almost, and the rivalry's a joke. It's a joke. Um, they're only rivals when it's they're rivals out of like convenience,
Hmm.
and although the games are competitive, it's just a different feel, right? Like Ohio
Yep.
State, Michigan, it goes on all year round, and here, like nobody talks about the Florida Georgia game until like it comes and then it goes, and then nobody talks about it afterwards. Where we talk about this thing, multiple media outlets talk about it 365, right? It's all that's on our minds is if you're in Ann Arbor, it's the team down south. If you're in Columbus, it's the team up north. We just back and forth all year round, and it's so
Right.
intense. And you don't necessarily get that in the conference like the SEC. It's we're it's more or less like they're more focused on winning national championships than the actual rivalry itself trying to get to a national championship. So it's a little it's a little different.
Yeah, I was just about to compare it to the Iron Bowl, Auburn versus Alabama, but I think that's more their state. I mean, when Michigan and Ohio State play, the whole country's talking about it.
Right. I mean they had
So
the highest rating sporting event of the
yeah,
year. So um, you know, here's the thing. I don't even remember what day the Iron Bowl. I know it's that week, but I don't remember hearing about the score of the game.
no, no. I
And
know
I,
it's usually towards the end of their season.
yeah. So, but it's not the game, right?
No.
And I'm almost like I said, I'm afraid that with so many moving factors that we're going to end up losing that, which would be sad if we do.
Yeah, so everyone, I guess, enjoy the next year. Uh, enjoy what you can from this season, but also enjoy the next year because afterwards it's gonna change.
Yeah, it's going to change, unfortunately.
But this is the fascinating thing about college football is that the powers that be they try to retain what it was. They tried to retain the bowl system as long as they could. They tried to keep us with the BCS for as long as they could, but eventually the question was there: why is this the only sport where the champion, where there's so much voting involved in crowning the champion? Why can't you
Yeah.
just seed teams and let them decide? So it's trade-offs. That's
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
the best thing
no,
I can
no.
say.
Yeah, I definitely. I mean, I'm not opposed. I just want to make sure everybody understands. I'm not opposed to the playoff. I think the playoff is a great thing. But like you said, there are trade-offs with and just getting what the fans want. There's going to be trade-offs, and I think sometimes fans don't think about that. They don't think about the trade-offs. They only think about they get like focused on one thing
Mhm.
and forget about everything else along the way.
Well, that's the other thing is that with the way that it was with the BCS, well, first where you had the coaches and the AP vote the champion, and then you had the BCS, which in a way was another invitational, and then the 14 playoff. Someone was going to get left out.
Right,
So, but you still had most of your rivalries.
right.
Now more teams are going to get in, but we're going to lose, most likely lose the rivalries. So it's
Yeah, and
just,
and
it's
actually,
just
and
what do
actually
you
believe
want?
that. Yeah, I think a hybrid of the two probably works the best. A BCS system with 12 teams, so that way you can, as Abdul would say, like cupcake your schedule, right? Because it's on point. So uh, I think probably hybrid of the two is the best option. I think long term, hopefully we get there somewhere along the way, but I'm not too convinced that anything the NCAA does. So we'll just have to wait and see.
Okay. Well, Alex, do you have anything else?
USC sucks.
Man, if they just tackled, and
Listen, it's
their offense came to play, their defense just, you know,
yeah, they are not good on defense. They play Olay on defense. They're just like run right past me, but I'll
mhm.
see if I can catch you. When you're 10 yards down the field, I'll see if I can run up and catch you. But yeah, if they could I think Alex Grinch coaches that defense, and if he does, that says a lot. That's I'm not surprised, but I think Alex Grinch is their defensive coordinator. I think
Okay.
Lincoln Riley took him from Oklahoma, and he can't coach defense at all. So he'll be
Yeah.
out of there pretty quickly. He's a great recruiter though. He can recruit his behind off, but he's a terrible defensive coordinator.
Okay. I was going to say I'm not familiar with him.
Yeah,
Alex
Ohio State
Grinch.
had him for a little bit. He was I think he was a linebacker coach, and then went to Oklahoma because he didn't get the Ohio State job. They gave it to Jeff Hafley instead of Alex Grinch. And then he went to Penn State. I think he was only there for like a year. They fired him. So and he's bounced around, but he's a very very good recruiter though. He's just not a very good defensive coordinator.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you, Alex. Appreciate that. I'll probably do something else next week before the semifinal games. So if
Yeah,
you're
well they're
around,
on. Oh, they're on Saturday, right? Next Saturday.
New Year's Eve.
Yeah, next Saturday. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Let's do something. I have two games on Tuesday and Wednesday. Then I'm done with my games till next year. So let's definitely try to schedule it if we can.
Okay. I'll let you know.
All right, sounds good.
All right. Have a good night. All right, everyone. I'm going to go ahead and wrap this stream up. Thank you to those of you who watched. I'm going to take us out with a Jim Harbaugh quote. This Jim Harbaugh quote refers to all 4 goals. Let's see if we can get all 4 goals this season.
Let's see if we can get all 4 goals. Let's beat Michigan State and Ohio State in the same year. Let's win the Big Ten championship and let's win the national championship. Those are our 4 goals, and man, let's go attack them. And guys are on a daily basis.
There's one more goal left to go, and that's the national championship. It's going to be interesting. All 4 teams will be rested up to a degree. The injuries will be nursed, and they will have had lots of time to study each other. So just because Michigan is picked to win by 10 points, that doesn't mean they're going to win by 10 points. It could easily be a dogfight and an upset. So let's see what happens. The same is true for the other bracket. Just because Georgia is picked to win, it doesn't mean they're going to win. So let's see what happens. So everyone, I'm going to wrap this up. Please, thank you to those of you who watched. If you're watching on the playback, please like, share, and subscribe if you see fit. Shout out to Bo Lytle, as respect is earned. If you want to donate something to the channel, that information is below in the description box. Also, please consider joining the Big Words LLC newsletter. And I also want to thank Michael Burden and Ashwin for watching my last promo video for my book project. And I appreciate those of you who have the curiosity to watch those things that are off the college football path a little bit. I appreciate that. If you haven't taken a look, please take a look. There are a lot of lessons that sports teach us, no matter which level you participate in. And there are things you learn as a spectator, but when you play something, no matter how old you are, you learn something. And that's what the last video is about, in addition to promoting my book and promoting my essays related to the book. In any case, I am going to wrap this up. So yeah, look for another video this week. I did do something on Cade McNamara, Eric All, and Alan Bowman entering the transfer portal. So look for that to come up later on this week, and look for something, a more in-depth look early next week, looking at Michigan's matchup with TCU. So with that, everyone, I'm going to wrap this up. Right now, I'm in North Central, upstate New York. The next live will be from Western New York. So I think this turned out okay. I think the Wi-Fi signal, once my computer finished updating, everything worked out. So in any case, I'm going to end this the way that I always do. Go blue. And as always, remember that your attitude determines your altitude. And always do your best. Take care, and I will talk to you the next time. Happy holidays, everyone. Bye-bye.